Hi everyone, Daniel from Homegrown Australia. So I've been asked to do a bit of an update on my cherry trees. I did a video that's gone quite well last year on the cherry trees, and we talked about which one was more prolific, given that I've got 3 different varieties. So in front of me here I've got the Star Crimson, and then I've got a Stella, and then I've got a Lapins. And as you can see, I've netted these trees just a week ago, so we're sort of middle of November time frame, and the crows were just starting to get into them. And even with the nets on top, it's possibly not the best way of netting them, because the crows are sitting on the nets and trying to get the cherries through the nets. But a bit of an update. So definitely we talked about in the last video the Star Crimson definitely being the most prolific from a blossom, from a fruiting perspective, and from a growth perspective. This tree has outperformed the others. It's probably a little bit hard to tell between the Stella and the Lapins. I found my fruit last year a little bit more bitter on the Lapins, and we got a little less fruit off the Lapins than what we got off the Stella. So it was pretty marginal though. Other people preferred the fruit off the Lapins to the Stella. They thought it was probably a little bit more complex fruit. So I guess that's a bit of a personal preference thing. But certainly the Star Crimson has been the more prolific. You'll see in the background here I've got a beehive, and so I've got no problem pollinating fruit. The issue that I do have though is I don't like to use pesticides or herbicides around the house if I can avoid it. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of an example of one of the pests I do have. So this year I've just planted a morello cherry between my other cherry trees, and this was the first tree that I noticed that I'm starting to get the cherry slug on. So if you can see that discoloration of the leaf, it's the first sign that you've got cherry slugs. It might be the first thing you see if you don't actually see the actual slugs, and that's quite a big one because he's been there for a few days. And but you can see, for example, you get some quite small ones which are a lot harder to see unless you get up nice and close. So in the past, before I had bees and before the trees were actually fruiting, I used to use a pesticide called Yates Success, and on the back of this has got instructions for the mixing ratios for cherry slug. I'd put that in a sprayer and spray the trees, and it absolutely worked. There was no doubt about that. Now that I've got the bees and I'm getting good fruit off the trees, I've tended to use a different method. So in a bag here I have some ash just out of a fireplace. I don't have a fireplace, I get this off a friend. And basically what I do is just throw the ash over the tree. That was probably a bit heavy because I'm holding a camera, but it doesn't need anywhere near that much. And what happens is that dries out the slug and kills them off, and they don't like living on the tree. So I go around and inspect the trees, and I'm looking, you can see these beautiful green leaves. I'm looking for that indicator of where there might be a cherry slug, and immediately over here I can see a discoloration of the leaves, and I can see a bit of a spotted effect. You'll see on these leaves here, even though I can't see a cherry slug there, I'm pretty confident there's one in there somewhere. And so I just throw a bit of stuff on there, and sure enough, here he is hiding down here. So even through the net, I can throw that ash onto the tree and deal with that cherry slug. For example, there's another one up here, really quite small. And again, I only spotted that because I was looking for that discoloration of the leaf. So I'll go around and I'll give a light dusting on the tree where I see that problem occurring. And that works really well, I find. I feel like, it's a natural product, so less likely to cause any problem for the bees, and certainly not contaminating my fruit with a pesticide. In terms of how the cherries are going, so we can see here we are in the middle of November, so I'll be picking these in the next 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even a little bit earlier. And so they're not ripe yet, but we've got a lot that are still green. So for example, you can get a bit of an idea of the sort of quantities and how they're bunching up, and I'd expect I'd get maybe 1.5 to 2 large bowls per tree. This tree's quite covered, might be a bit hard to see on the video, but it's definitely more prolific again. Just the Star Crimson. And last year was the first tree to get cherries off it. I'm not sure that'll be the case this year, so they're pretty close together in terms of their cropping. There's a lot of green cherries still in there. Although the birds did get to some of the riper ones earlier. Yeah, so that's a bit of an update on the cherry trees. Basically, I'm dragging a net. It's a 2-person job to drag the net over. So we use some large posts to drag the nets over, and at the moment I'm just tying these up with some wire loosely around the base, but tight enough so the birds can't climb up into the trees, which they will do if you leave a gap. Yeah, so highly recommend having cherry trees. It's great getting the cherries at that time of the year. They're an expensive fruit to buy in the fruit shops, so it's quite worth it. Thanks for watching.